All right, a little bit about the law, and we're kind of trying to keep this, rather than go through the whole ED sales tax law, what we're trying to do here is hit on the highlights. State sales tax rate is 6.25%. You can only go another 2% or 2 cents at the local level. So all local sales taxes have to be below that 2%. Jumping over to this dot point, about 10 years ago, the legislature decided that the ED sales tax organizations, among other kinds of uses of local sales taxes, could be anywhere from 1/8 of 1% all the way to the entire 2%. I know that's kind of an absurd, an absurd example, but you could actually have an economic development sales tax of 1.50 cents. Yeah, I mean, people say it's a 0.5 cent sales tax, but it's a local option thing. And I won't give you all this, but I remember people were saying, "Oh my God, this is gonna create a mess. Everybody's gonna have elections and reduce the sales tax, increase the sales, have the city take the EDC's monies away," all these kinds of things. And I think in the 10 years since then, there have been 5 sales tax elections related to changing the mix. That was one of those times it wasn't all that fun to have this job. I thought it was a good thing, actually, at the time. And it would have been really, really self-serving of us to say, we're for local control, but we don't want you to tell us how, how we can, or no, we want you to tell us how we can divvy up our money. Sales tax elections on the uniform election dates. Can a EDC enter into a performance agreement with a third party? Yes. Yes, but it has to be a legal agreement. Can EDCs hire a third party to do business recruitment? Yes. But must be approved by the board of directors. Again, I know of no instance where that's actually happened. Can a type A or B undertake projects which are located outside of the city limits? Short answer is yes. The kind of suggested way to do that is to get the county commissioners involved, seeking their support or their approval. Again, either whether that's in the ETJ or in an unincorporated area outside of the city and in the county. Who administers the type A or type B tax? Corporations are administered through a board of directors who determine which projects to fund, and then the city council retains approval authority over all expenditures. Does the council have to approve expenditures for type A and type B projects? Generally, city council retains the authority to approve all programs or expenditures. Council's oversight includes the authority to approve promotional expenditures as well. Just kind of outlining what the council approves when it approves a budget or approves other expenditures. Type A corporations have to have at least 5 members. Type B corporations have to have at least 7. And again, they're appointed by the city council. They can be removed with or without cause. Type A members can serve up to 6 years in a term. Type B board members need to be re-elected every 2 years. Again, y'all, is y'all 6 years or
3-year
Two-
terms,
three.
2 3-year terms.
2 3-year terms. Okay. I know people around the state. I'm familiar with their communities that have been on the ED board for 20 years. In other cities, it's turning over all the time. 2 years, year out, and that has its pluses and minuses as well. And all of this is, in terms of being reappointed to subsequent terms, that really falls to the city's policies there. And then, the board has president, secretary, other officers. And then in terms of how long a term the president, secretary, and other officers serve, one term cannot exceed 3 years. Must a type A board member be a resident of the city? No. Must a type B board member be a resident of the city? Generally speaking, yes, or a resident of the county of which the city is in, or within 10 miles of the boundary of that city, or in a neighboring county within 10 miles of the boundary of that city. Just to confuse things a little bit, right? And a quorum of a 5-member board is 3, of a type B board is 4. Are type A or type B board of directors paid? That's always a funny one. Y'all wish, right? Can a type A or type B corporation amend its bylaws? Yes, it can, and oftentimes it should, but the city council has to approve the amendments to the bylaws. I have found that to be, just with our own bylaws at TDC, a tedious process, but oftentimes a valuable one. If you got someone who wants to revisit those from time to time, I think it's a good thing. You'd be surprised about how quickly you start doing things and you read the bylaws and you're like, oh, shoot, man, we need to make a bylaws amendment here, or, oh man, we're operating outside the bylaws. It's okay to do that, and it's probably necessary, and I would encourage it. It's not, almost all the time, it's not a negative thing. Now, do you need to have a public hearing for type A? No, you don't for a type A project, with the exception of doing a sports venue project or doing a type B project with type A funds. Okay, those are the 2 instances where you all as a type A would have to have a public hearing.
Well, so ours is a type A, and all of our meetings, including where we vote, where our board votes on projects, are public meetings. Is that not necessary?
No, they need to be. I'm just talking about a public hearing relating to
Okay.
what you're expending for. No,
Don't you, to spend type A funds in a type B fashion, don't you actually have to vote?
you have to have an election, but then you would have to have that
The hearing?
the public hearing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if our type A entity wanted to do a type B project,
Correct.
you can have a specific election regarding that specific project.
Correct.
I had previously, for some reason, thought that if you had a vote to change from a type A to a type B, you could end up losing your EDC altogether. Is that not the case?
That's different than taking
Just a specific project. does not-
The discussion that has happened in Odessa in the past was completely changing type A to type B, which involved voting out A
And that's
and
a
then
dangerous.
voting in B.
That's a dangerous.
That's the
proposition, in my
dangerous
opinion.
part.
But what we can do now is we can have a vote to add on becoming a type B that does not affect our type A, right?
Only for
Depends on how
a
you
specific
ask for it.
project.
It's how the ballot, you can do it now depending on how the ballot is written.
I mean, that's possible, I suppose,
It's
because we
possible,
always
yeah.
thought it was not, but I mean, I've been told that the council is looking, and Eddie could probably speak to that, but potentially about adding it to be a type B as well.
Do you all have room under the cap? Here.
No, we're at 8.25.
Okay. So, if you all were to create a B, it would be at the expense
Expense of
of
the
At the
A.
expense
A.
of the
something
A.
else like the A.
Yeah.
Or do you have anything else? Do you have like a crime control district,
Medical hospital district.
hospital district? Okay, so
And is OC have a sales tax?
OC has them.
Yeah.
so they do.
OC.
ECISD, the hospital.
Yeah.
ECISD's not, they don't have sales tax. They're ad valorem.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
OC and hospital, right?
So to add
Yeah.
a B though, we'd have to either take away from our A
A,
or
you
take
have to
away
take
from
away from
somebody
A.
else.
and your A is a half cent, correct?
Quarter.
Quarter
Quarter
cent.
cent.
Quarter of a cent.
If
So-
the hospital gets the other.
So if you had a B, it would reduce you all to a eighth, and then the eighth would
And an
be the B.
Well, it wouldn't have to. What we wanted, what the thought was, is that some of the requests to us, some by the city, really don't qualify. And so the B would be in addition to allow us to do more things rather than, I mean, in my opinion, in my thought, there would just be the same pot of money that was available for A and B projects.
Can you do that? Or do you have to allocate it accordingly, A and B?
Yeah, I would think you'd have to allocate that. Y'all are the lawyers.
I'd have to look at this.
In my conversation with Jeff Moore, you essentially got two options. You shift a certain percentage over to B, and you've got your two pots, or you have a specific project that would be a B project, and you vote to take a specific amount of A to fund that B.
And that B is a one-off, and then there's no more B projects.
That would be a one-off. You could do a
Correct.
vote later on another one-off, but
And that's
But
been
it-
done many times.
Well,
Many
if that's the case, why wouldn't you just become a B? Because everything authorized under A is eligible in B.
Well,
I don't know, I'm reading off of your
Primary
pamphlet.
jobs.
here's the problem with that.
Okay,
When everything is a B, then
Then nothing's an A.
then it becomes very, very tempting for the councils to go, well, you know what, we got to do all these sidewalks and
yep.
and
Yeah,
all
they're
the,
gonna
That's
take
where
it
they
all
talked
away
about
from
that
you.
And
municipal
we're gonna-
slush fund.
we're
Yeah.
gonna set aside economic development for a few years. No, you do not want to do that.
Okay.
You do. It's a recipe for a disaster.
and if you want to speak to a specific example, Barbara Leatherwood and Snyder, they did that a couple of years ago, and they voted. They didn't do a specific project. They wanted to take a portion of their A, move it to where they could spend it as a B, and she said it just turned into the Parks and Rec Fund.
Mhm.
And she said if they had to do it all over again, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, it's just that a Type B corporation in Ballinger, Texas, is the best thing they could do, right? But boy, when you reach a certain level of economic competitiveness, like you've got here, and you got to be in the game.
Overall, yeah.
But the pressure on being a B with not having to adhere to the A rules, I mean, if you think you've got unrest and keyboard warriors going,
Yeah.
you know, your A is protecting you right now and forcing you to keep your eye on the ball to expand this economy.
Okay, so the city has come to us for infrastructure. And we have been told under Type A that we could do that for these roads and crossroads. And we have put we have said, okay, but we don't want all of our money to go for that type of thing. So we voted and put a cap on the
did.
amount that we would spend on that of 50% of our revenue. And doesn't that kind of get around that whole issue?
Are those expenditures, the clause in the law are they in support of new and expanded business development?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's it's similar to what y'all based your decision on with the infrastructure around Bass Pro Shop.
Right.
You couldn't provide that money directly to Bass Pro, but you provided it to the developer for infrastructure that you deemed would open up an area there for more business development.
Good stuff, Tom. Again, been done many times around the state.
Well, the thing that we were concerned about was the crossroads, because some of those are just repairs or expansion, aren't they? They're not.
Well, y'all didn't accept to do the maintenance and repair part of what they were proposing.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the last request for all of the different
The
that's what I'm
stuff out
talking-
of
That's
it,
what I'm talking
Yukon and
about.
all that.
Yeah.
They had like 6 items. Y'all chose the 3 that
Yeah,
you
we-
felt like, from a business development standpoint, were worthy. And just from knowing the law sitting in the audience at that meeting, I felt like y'all were spot on with everything you said.
I'm glad y'all are doing it the right way, and I'm glad y'all are thinking about that. And I think that's y'all have got the money. That's a good thing to do. That keeps everybody happy. Those are things that
You don't
enhance.
keep everybody.
That doesn't keep everybody happy.
Happy adjacent.
It just makes one person happy that day, and then we go to the next.
Okay. Well, but it's heartwarming for me to see that y'all have worked through that.
So we'd be a community partner.
And again, I think that's a sign that people are paying attention and you're trying to adhere to the law.
Well, the big issue is trying to increase the quality of life for Odessa. That's kind of,
And
Councilman Mitchell said the same thing, is trying to, and that's why we're so cautious with this, but also wanting to try to do something different.
And that's-
Because people always, the number one question, well, why can't y'all build a water park?
Yeah.
Like, well, we don't have any water.
We don't report this like today at the ODC meeting. I don't give it in my report. Maybe I should, but he gave a great explanation about policing yourself with a type A compared to a B. We tell more people no every day than we say yes. And so we get calls and they have an idea.
Yeah.
Why can't we fund this? And it's good to be able to tell them, well, here's state statute. We can support certain types of NICS codes, because it'll just get harder and harder if you're much more open. Because then all of a sudden you have to, we can kind of support that, but do we want to?
Right.
Well, that's a much harder decision than the law says we can't do this.
Right. Now, how long have you been married?
34 years and 2 weeks.
No, I can say no. Okay. I'm just teasing, I'm sorry.
Being able to say, well, we'd like to, but we can't.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we're nice. Don't get me wrong.
We'd love to, but we
We
can't.
try to steer them. A lot of times, the next question I'll say is, "Hey, if we can't help you, do you have a business plan?"
Right.
No.
No.
Well, here's who you need to talk to over at the SBDC,
Oh, yeah.
and they can help you, and they can help you find funding. SBA loans, what have you.
Yes.
Just imagine you can multiply those calls. If you're a B and it's Katie bar the door, I mean, you're spending your entire day telling them why you can't support the Lions Club breakfast or whatever. 990 forms for the IRS. There's a lot of folks that do 990s. You don't have to. Our nonprofit, we do a 990 with the IRS. It's a question that comes up a lot, but there's no requirement for an EDC to file with the IRS. in the cases where it's done, it's often done where EDCs have taken private money, contributions, and then they report it back.
And we are actually reported with the cities
Correct.
reporting as a department.
Correct.
On their the regular reporting on the 990, I believe, aren't we on the
The Economic Development Department is in the Chamber's 990.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So why is it then that we're part of the city's annual budget and their annual audit?
Well, because there are other expenses that are not related to this Economic Development Department, other expenses for ODC that we don't pay for.
We're one of a number of contractors.
So we're actually reported by two different entities?
No. ODC and its funds, because ODC is not a nonprofit, it is a specific type of entity formed under the Economic Development Statute, and it's the city of Odessa is responsible for us, so we're reported under them, but we have contracted with the chamber to provide services, and so the services that
Just
they
flow
provide
through
is
to
on
them.
their 990.
Right. Just like Motran has their 990 of
Yeah,
the services
okay.
they provide.
Okay. I got a little confused there.
And then every year, the EDC, the ODC will do a little 2-page report to the comptroller's office, and that's where we get the data on what EDCs are doing around the state each year. Okay, let's talk a little bit about permissible projects.
And the city does that.
That portion.
They do that for you?
reporting.
Again, I've been around such a long time. I can remember when I took this job, I could not believe what EDCs were spending their money on. I mean, it truly was the wild, wild west. It was crazy. And if you want to kind of divide up the history, so the law was passed in '89. From '89 to 2005 was like really, really crazy times what EDCs were spending their money on. We got our arms around it in 2003 and 2005, and things have changed since then, and a lot for the better. I wish I could even think of some of the things that EDCs were spending their money on, but there was a lot of fights in the legislature.
The B.
The B,
Heading into B-bill.
the B heading into the Hutto Hippo.
Yeah.
Libraries being built left and right. Well, there's a provision in the law that says learning centers. Well, the learning center provision was actually so Gonzalez could do an extension of Alamo area community college district. Had nothing to do with libraries. But I'm telling you, about 25 libraries were built with that learning center provision. Their interpretation, the community's interpretation was, learning centers, well, let's use the EDC funds to build some libraries. Well, long story short, we got that taken out or clarified. I can't remember exactly how it worked. Again, 20 years ago, but it was never the intention of the sales tax law to fund libraries, because you can create library districts. There's 28 of them, I think, in the state that have their own funding for libraries. But there was a lot. This was a really, really pivotal time in the history of the economic development sales tax, because we got serious. We got the primary jobs provision. We got the NAICS sector into the law, and that supposedly covers all of the possible primary type employers, and the legislature passed that, and it started making communities behave in terms of what they can expend their dollars on. So type A corporations can, anyway, type A corporations can spend their money on the following kinds of expenditures. Type B corporations can do all of those things, and they can do job training, targeted infrastructure, the career center provision, aviation, airports, port-related facilities. They can do a lot of different things without having to create or retain primary jobs. Type A can do certain infrastructure improvement projects. They're outlined there. Again, y'all have done that. These have been done, hundreds of times around the state of Texas. 501, 103. They can use their EV sales tax for promotional purposes. Only 10% of the revenues per year. Yet they can take carryover funds from previous years, apply those for marketing. Again, this is something that's been done for a long time. And then the instances which we were referencing earlier about type A corporations pursuing type B projects through an election, as Tom pointed out, has to be described on the ballot. And generally those are like come and go kinds of things. They support the project is done, that project goes away, and they go about the business of being an A corporation, doing A corporation type expenditures. I think you were Bass Pro, right? Y'all did the infrastructure for Bass Pro, correct? Again, great example. Type A using targeted infrastructure. Type A's can even do job training, pay for job training for the Bass Pro if they wanted to. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our friends, the Texas legislature. My favorite quote about the Texas legislature. Earlier I mentioned, this is a fairly recent count. There are 784 EDCs. There's about 100 communities in the state that have both A and B. This number has actually declined. That 238 was about what it was, around what it was when I started this job 27 years ago. This number has exploded. There was about the same number of A's as there was B's. So, in the last 25 years or so, there have been about 300 type B's. And look, let's be honest. Small town Texas needs to be type B. And I would argue, for example, Lamesa is not far from here. Everybody here's been through Lamesa. Lamesa, not exactly a prospering, booming place, but think about how much better Lamesa looks now than it did 10 years ago. And you know why? Because they're type B corporation. Their type B corporation went in and either bought or leveled every rundown building around its downtown. Now they have people coming in on Saturday mornings, little trade fairs and things like that. Would have never happened had we not had the economic development sales tax. And there's literally dozens of examples of type Bs doing those kinds of things that make a lot of our small towns look better, feel better, look more prosperous, become more prosperous as a result of those type Bs.
So that you say you have cities that are type A and type B.
Yeah, there's a lot, 100 of them. Check out 1997 versus 2023. Pretty amazing. So after we got those changes in 03 and 05, we really settled things down. The ED sales tax has not become a toy of the legislature anymore. Most members, at least the ones that care about what we do, leave it alone. They understand that it's important to the cities that they represent. And if you see the bottom statement there, ED sales tax proceeds have been used to build city halls, fire stations, build equipment, buy equipment for first responders, and build single-family homes, and build a high school football stadium. Yes, that has occurred. But you don't see that really happening anymore. Again, because we have these kinds of sessions around the state, the sales tax workshops like the one we're going to have in Abilene. We'll have 100 people there. And people, it's heartwarming to see that people want to do the right thing. And that's generally occurring around the state. And our position has been, look, leave us alone. We'll stay out of, you stay out of our tax, we'll stay out of yours. And there are tax kinds of tools to support the building of public hospitals, to support our community colleges, libraries, of course to schools and colleges and universities. They all have a way of being funded without trying to tap into the economic development sales tax.
And really, that's not true of all of those things. The junior college does, but like UTPB, we've helped fund workforce training for their engineering at ODC.
And that's good.
And the library, we're building a new library, and there's no funds coming from anywhere for that. So
Good.
Is that something, I mean, library's up there as a list of things that you probably wouldn't do, but because of the programming that we have and some of the things that we're doing, is if we were so inclined, are there things that would be permissible for ODC to fund in a library?
No.
Pardon me?
No.
No?
Now, libraries can create library districts and then
Yeah.
fund themselves that way. One of the things we oppose, and we haven't always won these battles, is carve-outs. A lot of times when the legislature convenes, a member will come to us and say, hey, we need to change the city attorney or the EDC attorney has told them, well, you're going to have to change state law to do this. And, we will do everything we can not to change the state law because of the potential unintended consequences of, well, we got this carve out for Port Arthur, we've got this carve out for Hillsborough, and all of a sudden we've got, just this, helter-skelter blanket of rules and regulations for cities around the state. There's a few carve-outs out there, but generally speaking, we not only oppose them, but we offer help to help them figure out a way to fund the projects that they think they need a carve-out for. And the way we do that generally is being creative in the use of the term project. The term project, the word project is the most important word, I would argue, in all of the ED sales tax law. Because that's what you're saying, you're expending your money on this particular project. So, generally creative minds can get together and figure out a way to support you're using your money, and it is citizens of Odessa, Texas money, using that money to support something that may not be in black and white in the law. Again, we'd rather have that than create a hodgepodge and help communities figure out how they can do that and have a hodgepodge law that Hillsborough can do one thing, but Belton can't, or Amarillo can do one thing, but Lubbock can't. We really, really work hard to prevent that kind of thing from happening. So, I've been talking around this, talking directly to it as well. If we allow some of the bills that have been introduced over the last several sessions, really if I could show you these bills, they basically make the ED sales tax into what I would call a local municipal services tax. Where they're funding first responders, they're funding fire departments, all those kinds of things. Hey, first responders, fire departments, critically necessary. Police departments, critically necessary. But, for 100+ years in cities around the state, they were funded out of general revenue of those communities. And again, you do that, who works with the business community, who builds the business parks, who does economic development. About 20% of the new jobs generated in Texas in the last 35 years have had some sort of participation with the economic development sales tax. Now that's just the jobs themselves, not the multiplier effect jobs. We're talking millions of jobs and billions in new tax revenue. Mentioned a little earlier, the Comptroller's Department is about the only place, the state level place, where you can get information related to economic development. You can get information related to EDCs, you can get information related to incentive agreements. All of those things live with the Comptroller, and it's a good place to look to see what other communities are doing. And oh, by the way, the legislature likes it because it can handpick the bad incentive agreements and then accuse the rest of the thousands of other incentive agreements that all of them are bad, right? I'm getting too cynical here in my advanced years, but nonetheless, it's a good resource for all of us to be able to tap at any point in time.
Put that one back in.
Yeah,
Couldn't
let's
memorize
leave
it.
that one, yeah. I like that. Take a picture.
Or the same man who said I wouldn't be a member of a club who would have me as a member of the club. There's a lot of discussion, relentless discussion, I would say, about why we do well. The standard political answer is low taxes, low regulation. Low taxes, low regulation. Well, last time I checked this, we're not living in 1955. And that's just way too simple of a response to why we do well, because we're not always the lowest taxed place. If you look at business taxes in general, we're generally in about the middle of the 50 states. A lot of people in the public say, well, we don't tax business, that's why we're so good. No, we do tax, and we've got high property taxes. We all know that. But there's so many other factors, and I look at remember my time as a site location consultant, that in economic development, location is such a huge driver. And if you think about where we're located on the planet, there's few places on the planet that are better situated than we are. We're in the middle of the U.S., north and south, east and west, the middle of the NAFTA trade area into Central and South America. We're in the central time zone. We've got, 19 ports. We've got great airports in this state. In our proximity to Mexico, which is a global player now in manufacturing, and a nearby alternative to China as well. We are going to have stuff happen in this state. It's just a matter of our geography is our destiny. Just like in the Permian Basin, geology was destiny. Our geography is our destiny in economic development. We have a lot of land, of course. We have over 30 million people now, and by having over 30 million people, it's almost like a perpetual motion machine. You have that kind of a market, it builds on itself. And that kind of market drives its own market. And, we're not just an oil and gas state, we're an energy state. And we haven't even gotten into geothermal or hydrogen or anything like that. That's coming. So we're going to be oil, gas, solar, wind, geothermal. We're going to be we are the energy state of the United States. And we're business friendly. We generally, big picture, we welcome business. I wouldn't say we're necessarily always business friendly among the people that vote in our state, as we discussed a little bit earlier. Massive workforce, great highway system, size of the economy. I need to update that slide. It's now we're seventh or eighth.
Almost 7.
I'm sorry.
Almost 7.
Almost 7. Okay. And we lead the nation in exports, and have for like 30 years in a row. So we're doing economic development by exporting our products, bringing in money from the rest of the world that's churned around our great state. Let's talk a little bit about incentives. I talked a little bit earlier about one of the lobby groups that's against incentives. The economic development world has only responded to the desires of the corporate world, who's out there moving around and expanding business development. It is, it's funny, I was lucky enough to be working for the company that brought BMW North America to Greer, South Carolina. And we finished that project, and they were happy with where they chose Greer, South Carolina. And at the end of that, they said, "Do you think they give us incentives?" So 1993. Now, their incentives were around before 1993, but it was generally free land. A local, the old industrial commission would give free land, but there wasn't a lot going on in terms of tax abatements and all kinds of other local inducements. And we said yes. And our company, the company I worked for at the time, then negotiated with BMW, and the state of South Carolina did like crazy things that wouldn't occur in Texas in 2026. For example, they hired South Carolinians and then flew them to Stuttgart, and they participated in a training program to learn how to assemble BMWs for 6 weeks. Can you imagine that happening in Texas, Tom? Even in 2026? No.
I'd be willing to go.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say that was the beginning of the incentive era, but people understand the next many years on down the road, people would throw wild incentive proposals at companies they didn't even know, what they were going to give. Do y'all remember the Saturn? The car, the Saturn.
The car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Saturn came out. GM said we're going to put it, somewhere in the Mid-South, but Minnesota said we'll give you $1 billion. This is like 1996 or something. We'll give you $1 billion to come to Minnesota, and completely unrealistic. I mean, companies still need to be where they need to be, regardless of how much you're throwing it in terms of incentive agreements. Mercedes-Benz located in Alabama shortly after BMW located in South Carolina, and they approached us, and one of the proudest things I can remember from my time working in site location is our company said, no, we're not going to work with you, Mercedes, because you're leading with incentives. Our philosophy was, we got to put you in the right place first. These incentives will come. And we didn't do that project. It was the only foreign automotive project that we didn't do from 1960 to 1995. We did all of them except Mercedes that went to Alabama. And Alabama almost bankrupted themselves, the state government, by what they gave Mercedes-Benz. 95% of all areas use some kind of incentives. What y'all are doing here is not any different than everybody else is doing. And if you don't have them, you aren't going to win. It's that simple. It's just part of the process. Y'all didn't invent the game. We didn't invent the game, but it's part of the game. And again, as Ray, we had Ray do a study for us a number of years ago, and as Ray being a great writer as he is, as a practical matter, incentives are essential to an effective growth strategy. Bingo. Okay, so what do we need to do to stay competitive? Well, we need to make sure the legislature keeps its hands off of these local economic development tools. I know those names don't mean much to y'all, chapters 380, 381. 380 is cities, 381 is counties, 311 is cities, 312 is counties. 403 is the value limitation, the incentives that allows school districts to enter into value limitation agreements for massive capital investment projects. So taxing $1 billion corporation at $100 million and then phasing that in over a 10-year period, for example. That could be structured in. The legislature's been pretty generous in workforce development programs. You've heard me say this all day long. Leave us alone at the local level. Economic development is a decidedly local endeavor. This is the biggest question we face in Texas. Can we get our arm? Are we willing? I saw an unbelievable report. Maybe it was from the Water Development Board, but they're saying that Texas needs to invest like $170 billion to address the water needs over the next 30 years. $170 billion.
2036 came out.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's us. we're pro-business, we're pro-public investment. That's what we do. That's what you all are doing, using public dollars to strengthen this local and regional economy, and we're pro-local control. Any questions? How do we do time?
Run out of money, you said.
Okay, good.
Would you, I just want to be absolutely sure, because we've had so many people ask us this, and I'm comfortable we can do it, so that's not my issue. But would you look at the back of this eligible projects, type A, and tell me which one of these, the road repairs and maintenance,
The infrastructure?
the infrastructure, where does that fall in here?
Well, it is,
It says infrastructure to retail or commercial projects.
yeah, I mean, the clause in law is infrastructure in support of a new and expanded business development. That's why you all, and I can't remember, I don't have a copy of the law. It's 501 something, maybe it's 501.
103.
Is it 501, 103? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can, that's sort of the catch-all that enables you all to do something like you did for Bass Pro, for example.
That's,
That would actually cover the one underneath it too for sewer, wouldn't it? Underneath it.
Yeah.
They just related to sewer, utility, business related.
I guess I could see on the Bass Pro Shop, because it's a retail project. I just want to get clear in my mind that whenever we're working on crossroads and streets here, you know, for the city, giving the city that qualifies.
Yeah, I think that's where it gets a little tricky. I mean, you could have the argument that, well, I mean, if our crossroads and if our thoroughfares are in bad shape, that affects our ability to support truck traffic, and you could weave that into
But
an
that's the
expenditure
thought.
in support of new and expanded business development. But I would argue that's the kind of expenditure, and this is kind of a rule of thumb that I suggest you all use to think of things by. And it was given to me way back in the day by the author of the sales tax law, Bill Ratliff, state senator. And oh boy, I wish we had 31 Bill Ratliffs in the Texas Senate to this day. But Bill Ratliff said to questions like that, who paid for those intersections before 1989? Well, the cities did, through general revenue, right? Right. So there's the answer to the question, that it's a city expenditure, just like police and fire and, you know, other kinds of traditional things that cities fund. So that's where it gets a little tricky for communities, because you could probably make that argument, you know, we need to improve this area, otherwise business is not going to come here. You know, and some people would say that is an expenditure in support of new and expanded business development. I would argue that I would support. I would suggest that it has to be a little more targeted than that, a little more a pinpoint of what you're doing. Like if you're doing infrastructure for the pad site, for, you know, a big retailer like Bass Pro, that's one thing.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's you know, that's supporting.
But
new and expanded
Ronnie
business
and
development.
Tom, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
all of that
Cities
we
that-
just approved.
Yeah.
We
Well-
said we'd spend up to $15 million.
Yeah. And they came in with I can't remember,
It
5
was-
or 6.
It was 6
Now, the
things.
part that was actually repair and maintenance, y'all chose not to do
I think
that.
we chose not to do 52nd Street.
It was
Part of that.
widening Yukon.
Yeah.
It was extending Dorado from its current terminus to Yukon, and in the signalization at 191 in
Right.
Yukon.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I guess that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I pulled up the statute, and if it's okay, I'll read
Yeah,
it,
please.
like the first part of it. It says 501.103 certain infrastructure improvement projects. And this subtitle project includes expenditures that are found to be by the board of directors to be required or suitable for infrastructure necessary to promote or develop new or expanded business enterprises, limited to streets or roads, rail spurs, water and sewer utilities, electric utilities, or gas utilities, drainage, site improvements, and related improvements.
And so because all of the housing and everything that's
Well,
going
your
on
major
in the
intersection's gonna be
development, yeah.
191 in Yukon.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So,
that's gonna
And that's
be-
how I can remember in that discussion in closed session, David Boutin asked that specific, can we justify due to this? And Jeff Moore was there. Jeff Moore said, yes, absolutely.
yeah, I've gotten comfortable that we've gotten legal, but when people have asked me, I haven't been able to satisfactorily say why, if that makes sense.
I think it's more of if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have the ability to have that future facilities come in right there. We're enticing the possibilities
So
of
the
another
development
retailer to
of
come
a
in
new-
there by having those intersections developed.
And I've had people ask me, can you do infrastructure for this project? And we're looking at it, on a map and Google Earth and everything. And it's like, well, you're socked in right there. It's not going to promote additional business development where that's at. It was pretty easy with where Bass Pro is because of all the available land around it. Because I think they were talking about 1,500 acres.
Yeah.
That's available for new development.
Well, and back in the day, I know that ODC helped or assisted in Parkway, expansion of Parkway for the industrial district,
Right to go. Mhm.
for OIDC.
I love that y'all are thinking about this. And from what I can tell, all of these are completely appropriate uses. There's a lot of communities that have twisted themselves into pretzels about about how to expend these kinds of funds, or councils have
And we
preferred-
get those comments. They'll say,
Yeah.
well, Midland's doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well-
one of our problems is the media always reports we have $80 million, we're saying, no, we don't. And so thanks to Peggy and a couple of the bankers on the board, and let's clear this up, we're actually people see what we really do have. And we don't- Now with that 15 million, we don't have a whole lot of money, but we still have money.
When it got a little bit.
Yeah, we
You
got a
know-
little bit,
24
but
million.
we don't have 80 million because it's already pledged to somebody else.
It's
so,
pledged, yeah. You know,
And
and
people
I-
don't understand that.
I love that. I love that you're thinking about it. And one of the things that I've told communities, I don't know what sitting on, as you explained, y'all aren't sitting on this, it's obligated for.
Yeah.
I don't know what that amount is in Odessa. I don't know what it is in Amarillo or wherever. But I encourage y'all to employ that money. Use it. Invest it. And think of it as an investment. Because that's what y'all are doing. Y'all are investing in Odessa, Texas.
Right.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. And again, if you didn't have the ED sales tax, this stuff wouldn't be going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, one of your slides say that the whole reason for this is to help people with upfront expenses and to get the results of profit quicker. We pay on after an expenditure's already made. I mean, we pay over 5 years. And so typically, so once they've spent the money, we reimburse them over 5 years, which takes a while, for them to get their money back.
Yeah.
So that means we have to have that money to pay that it's reserved.
Well, it's reserved and earmarked for
And
that
so,
future disbursement.
You know, assuming that
Payable.
they're going to be able, and so that looks like we have more money. I mean, we've changed our financial statements so that we have an area for reserve for future, for the commitments that we have outstanding. But it does look like if somebody just looks at our total cash that we're sitting on a lot of money.
Everybody needs to have that explanation for the old guys at Old Man Coffee.
I need to start going to McDonald's and the hamburger company. And
Chick-fil-A on 42nd has a big one, so that's where you need to go.
Chick-fil-A on 22nd.
42nd. Only coffee over there.
Hit the Chick-fil-A crowd.
That's it.
Are they an early morning coffee group?
Mm.
Apparently Monica's in that group.
Well, I'm not in a group. I'm just driven through there and I see a bunch of old men having coffee there.
Oh,
So
really?
That was kind of inappropriate.
wise, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend anybody.
I
I
bet
am
you
one of
Black
those guys.
Bear has a group.
I resemble that remark.
Right, I know.
No, we always used
Well, you have a little time left to pick his brain. I know ODC meets at 3 at City Hall, which is 3 minutes away.
yeah.
3 minutes distance from here, not 3 minutes from now.
Well, I was curious. This is just a personal question because I talked with Ray about it and about the library. So I was surprised when you said, no, the library does not qualify because, you know, there are things we're doing in the new library and that certainly are going to help the workforce and keep kids in school and all that kind of thing. But I guess none of that actually qualifies.
It doesn't. I mean, there might be something you could do. I don't know the whole story of the library, but I mean, there might be something you could do infrastructure-wise to make that happen or help make that happen. Again, this is the kind of thing that, you know, I go back to this being y'all's money, okay? And, you know, as I've said before, there's not a giant police force out there, you know, going to slap you on the hand. I do think it's important that you obey the law, but if folks can get together and figure out a way where there could be a participation, then that's y'all's decision. That's why we support local control. We believe that people in Odessa can make that decision better than anybody else. And
Well, as an example, you know, one part of the new library is going to be for teens, the whole areas, and it, you know, with computers and all kinds of things that they need because we have a tremendous dropout in our schools from 9th grade up through seniors.
are the schools participating?
No.
No.
And
It's so right now it's just funded by general revenue of the city, or is there a library
no,
district?
It's a county
we're
library.
raising
Oh, it's a
money.
county
It's-
library.
The
Okay.
county's matching what we raise. We have a $60 million project, and the county's going to match 30, and we're raising 30. But the point I was making is that one of the things that we've realized is that those high school kids, junior high and high school kids, a whole lot of them, because of our demographics, come from our latchkey kids. They're chaos at home and they can't study. If they wanted to study, they can't study. And, you know, so part of this thing is developing a really cool place, a safe place for kids to come and study. And that should increase our graduation rate, which in our mind increases our workforce. And that's where that thought process come through, is what can we do to improve to educate our workforce, our population. And it seemed that might qualify under here for some money.
Quite a stretch. I'd like to see the school district, the community college involvement there. And again, there might
They have libraries.
there might be a way for ODC to, but I I don't see the direct
Lonely.
job creation
Yeah.
benefits at type A's.
Well, only 28% of the adults in Odessa can read past an 8th grade level. And, you know, I mean, you got to believe that providing a facility that people can go to, that's got to improve that. But
I agree. And I had a phone call today with Odessa College, and they said that 78% of our population are receiving some type of governmental assistance. And so it's things like what the library will provide to the students. I would think so too. Support that workforce, and it's hard to recruit workforce here. So we've got to develop our own local population, our students, to understand the opportunities that are here and to get them to stay here. But they have to be educated, and they don't have those resources at home. So I get what you're saying.
No,
Thank you.
Well, you know, kind of underlying what he's alluding to as far as the local community, and that's why they're so big on local control. You can get creative, and the ODC board's about to have in front of them again. The county submitted a new application just the other day on the parking garage. They pulled the first one because the garage got bigger. Well, reaching out to Jeff Moore to ask the legality of the ODC spending funds on that, he said if you were able to take, because so many spots are going to be used by the post office, county, the courts, but they're also going to have public. He said if you took the percentage of public spaces that are available to the public 24/7, and you wrote that into the EDA, the agreement, he said you could justify ODC supporting a dollar amount equivalent to
Right.
that percent.
which is what we did. I mean, that's
Yeah.
exactly the
Yeah.
methodology that we used was
And
that.
so you can look at a project and really analyze it. We were talking about that golf course project the other day with Sarah Moore. You know, there's a workforce involved in there. I don't know how you quantify it, but you know, every project, well, maybe not every one, but a lot of them, if you took your time and picked it apart, you can find some ways to support it. But you just want to make sure it kind of passes the smell test.
That's what I like to hear. Yeah.
Well, that's
Y'all-
exactly the
Or you
methodology
could be
we
like
used for
Midland.
the
Oh, no,
parking
I'm
garage.
Don't ask that. I've been wanting to ask that question the whole time I remember. I do have a question about Odessa, because one of the compliance committees has been here a long time, and I won't say his name, but he keeps bringing up the fact that Odessa College is a taxing entity and UTPB gets sales tax, and we give them money out of the ODC. Are we doing something? that
Well,
could be-
I'm guessing y'all give them money for
Workforce.
specific training programs.
Yeah.
Workforce development.
Yeah, I mean, that's
The
done,
facility for that's okay too?
that's
Okay.
done all over the
Jeff
state.
even said brick and mortar. I know when Chris Crow and Jeff Russell were vice president of the board, they asked me, why can't we fund training for fire and police?
Right.
And I knew we couldn't pay it directly. So I reached out to Jeff Moore's kind of our outside attorney, so I'll send him the question. And Jeff said you couldn't pay specifically for the training. You couldn't write a check to like City of Odessa or Odessa Police. You could pay for the brick and mortar for the building on their campus that they would be trained in.
Yeah.
And so, and that's like with the building going downtown.
Right.
He usually before we even take it to compliance, we get his blessing or some legal blessing on whether you can do it.
You know how it is. It's a question that keeps coming around and coming around.
Yeah.
Put an end to it and put it away.
Well, for some reason, a lot of people have it in mind that the acid test is quality of life. And, you know, I have a lot of people say, well, that's a quality of life thing. You should be able to fund it. I mean, there's not anything that says it's okay if it's a quality of life issue. Now, you can turn that into some of these things, But I think there is a misnomer here that we can do anything that improves quality of
Well,
life.
that would be,
That's gonna be a B if you're not careful.
right, that would
Yeah,
be
you're
an
gonna fall into
instance
a B.
where if you all were a B, it
Yeah.
would be a lot easier to.
That's right. That's why I was asking the
Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
about B, because everything that anybody wants to do around here,
Yeah, but I think you'd fall into a B by what I'm seeing.
yeah, I do too.
That's why my response, like I said, I say no more every day than I say yes, which is the hard
Really?
part of the job. But I tell them, hey, we're a type A, and we're more brick and mortar and job creation. And when you explain that to people, usually they get the answer.
But I think that people, I'm not saying this is right, but I think that just the average Joe Blow would think that economic development was more important and meant more to them if we could do more things that the average person got to benefit from.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree with that, but we talked
I
about,
get that.
But there's gonna be so many broad projects
Oh,
that
yeah.
everybody's gonna have their own opinion as to,
right,
this is what I want, or this is what
Right.
Yeah,
I.
you could say my bar with a dartboard and a shuffleboard, or what are they doing there now?
Axe
Oh, no,
throwing.
that's a sports complex.
Tom likes that. His old man men's club.
Yeah.
My bar's a sports
Now I
complex.
know
What's he saying
I'm gonna
about
have to
that, Tom?
revisit my career.
Old man's men's club?
I'm not touching that.
Well, you remember the Goldsmith men's club? We had dinner or lunch with the guy the other day. He was talking about it. Remember that?
Yeah.
The Goldsmith men's club.
It's not like the one in Dallas or Houston.
No, it's as redneck as it gets. If we had a tree, we'd have a swing to the pond. There's not a tree. We'd have to put an old oil derrick or something out there for it.
We ought to get all the cafes to let us put a little card on their tables that say, to the Old Men's Coffee Club.
That's it.
If you have questions about these specific things, call them. We'll
Yeah,
send
call
someone to
them.
join you.
I hope I didn't create something for you, Tom.
Call Tom.
Yeah, you can
Call
Tom.
Mike Withrow
That's
at
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Meeting ends at 2:20
Coming
p.m.
over there too?